And Shirel, let's go traveling.
Yes, thank you. So just before I share my screen, I will mention that this is not only a first time CSP is doing such a program, it's the first time I'm doing something like this and trying to translate something, but not kind of take you on what we did necessarily, but actually share with you the highlights and the interesting things. And as Ari mentioned, a lot of it is also about people that we will be bringing to CSP online in the coming month. So hopefully it's a sweet mix between, yes, something of the group, but mainly a lot of information that we want to share with you. And one of the things that we did, we had a kind of reunion of the group and we recorded it. And before that, I asked people to say things about what they chose as highlights. So in this program, I've also incorporated recordings of words that are from people that were on the trip. So because I must say they said things very, very eloquently. So you'll get to hear that. Yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy and learn some new things on the way. One moment, I'm just making sure it's all up here and I'm not giving anything away. Let's share screen. Share, and I'll put it. Okay. So we started up north in Haifa, which at first Ari was very skeptical about. He didn't like that city. I'm venturing that might have changed. And I have this photo at the beginning because, as Ari mentioned, yes, I might have been the mastermind or the curator of this trip, but it wouldn't have happened without this dude over here that you're seeing on the screen. And without this wonderful, amazing woman, Gila Levitan, tour guide, who you'll hear more from towards the end of the program, also recorded. She's currently traveling in Uzbekistan. She might join us online, but kind of these are the people behind the scenes, and you'll see the group more and more. And we stayed in Botanica Hotel in Haifa, which is also an art hotel. So we actually started our tour touring the collection there. And you can see here kind of the looking over the Baha'i gardens into Haifa. Some of the things I'm going to skip quite quickly just to give you a context and then diving into more of the content. Our hotel was at the foot of the Baha'i garden. Here we're having dinner just outside of the hotel, literally at the foot of the Baha'i garden, where you can see it in day and in nighttime, these beautiful views. And we started our kind of very intense day after visiting the Haifa Museum of Art, touring the exhibitions where the concept of home was very prominent. You're seeing here paintings by Natalia Zorbova. And it became apparent from the get-go, from this first meeting, that even though, you know, we're in Haifa, rockets weren't falling on us at that point, everyone we were meeting was talking about how things shifted because of the war, and what was the role of the museum and how do they interact with that. And the concept of home came up over and over again. There we met with Maya Prat and Stav Even Zahav, who are two central artists and curators that are part of the Tarbut movement. And the Tnuat Tarbut movement is basically a grassroots movement that started in the north in Afula with youth and young adults that started to create culture in the periphery. They are now a very, very large movement, kind of across the country. And Maya and Stav founded this very unique gallery in Nahariya. So that's the northern point of Israel. Originally, we were supposed to visit them over there. Obviously, because of the war, our plans shifted a little. We didn't go all the way up to Nahariya, and they met us in Haifa, where they also curated some exhibitions. And what you can see here is the uniqueness of the gallery. In this case, I'm not going to say a lot because we're going to have in November one of our programs with Stav Even-Zahav and Maya Prat, who are going to come and introduce their groundbreaking work. But just so you get a taste of it, this is a gallery that was founded in the central bus station of Naharia in an open space. So basically, it's not even a closed space. They founded an open gallery, figuring out how to even exhibit art when it's open to the street, but trying to find a way for art to be part of daily life. So we met with them to hear about the gallery, to hear about their work, and also to hear about how, again, the war shifted what they were doing. Some food, because we can't skip all the amazing food that we were having there on this tour of Haifa. And then kind of off the street, as we were going between stalls, we took this kind of sudden right turn into a studio, a photography studio. Actually, Yigal Felix is on the call with us here today to have a conversation about photography, about what it is to be a photographer in Israel, about the philosophy behind it, and actually quite an interesting conversation also about photography and AI and where it's going today. And what I want to share with you is also what Yigal did with us in his studio, because Yigal does a portraiture photography. Just so you know the caliber, Yigal does all the photography for the Israel Philharmonic musicians. He does all their work, all their portraits in a very unique way. He has quite a unique approach, and he got us all standing there. I must say, he told us not to smile. We had quite a few different photos going on. But even that feeling of being, in a, I don't know, we're all with digital cameras. I'm not sure how many of us had the opportunity lately to be in a photography studio and have a photographer direct us. And what happens when that is something, when someone else is designing a group photo. I must say it impacted the continuation of our trip in terms of how we were taking photos. So a very interesting experience and a fun one, which also came with a sweet memory. That packed day ended. I obviously didn't show you everything, but the day after we traveled, you can see from Haifa, we traveled to the Mishkan Museum of Art in Ein Harod. It's a tiny kibbutz. You can see the location over here in the north. So you see, I mentioned Afula. So we traveled all the way here to Mishkan Museum of Art, which is a very, very unique museum. This is the view from outside. It's, first of all, the first museum building in Israel. It was inaugurated in 48. It started in a shack in 38. And then the building was designed by Shmuel Bikel, a very well-known Israeli architect. It was actually conceived in the 30s by painter Chaim Atal. So this is the first museum. Notice the name, Mishkan Museum of Ein Harod. Mishkan, if you know the word, comes from the Bible. Mishkan is the temporary temple that the Israelites had in Har Sinai. So it's the Temple Museum of Ein Harod. And another very interesting story about this place is the kibbutz itself split in the 50s because of political, ideological rifts between Zionist socialists and Zionist left-wing socialists, between Mapam and Mapai. The kibbutz split into two kibbutzim, Ein Harod Ichud and Ein Harod Meuchad. Don't worry if you find that confusing. I forever find that confusing myself. The interesting thing about this museum is that they agreed that the museum will belong to all of them, regardless of the split, which kind of gives you an understanding of how important they saw the museum in their lives, at what a level that even though they split their lives into two different locations over ideological dispute, they still decided that the museum belongs to all of them. It's a unique modernist building, very low, you can see, but that uses the natural light in the galleries. And what I want to do is share with you some words from Stacy.
When Ari stopped the two of us and said he wanted to take a photo of us, I was like, why are you taking a photo of us now? But at that moment, I think both of us were really fully engaged at the Mishkan Museum. The Mishkan Museum, we had never been to the Mishkan Museum before, and it felt like a real find. I thoroughly enjoyed Avi Lubin and how he described the collection. I loved Boaz Noy's paintings, and this was really hard for me because throughout the trip, whenever an artist talked about their process and how they made their work, I was totally in orbit. And when Avi talked about Boaz's process of how he made his paintings, I was totally fully engaged. This shot, though, I thought this was the coolest thing because I had never been in a gallery before the exhibit opened. So this felt like a real behind the scenes invitation, which was something that happened several times through our trip. And that was such a gift. Also, when I think Shirel talked about how the curator is a narrator for a story to be told. And in this exhibit, I think my mind was going through several storylines, and it was just wonderful.
So what Stacy is mentioning here, and again, you see now why I brought quotes, because it's so beautifully articulated. So you can see here where the photo is in the gallery that was not open. Okay, they opened the bars for us. We went through and other people were peeping like, why are we getting to go in with the head curator? The exhibition was opened at the end of May. It's called Work, Labor, Action. It's art from the museum collection. The collection of Mishkan Museum is one of the largest in the country and the largest collection of Jewish artists from the 19th and 20th century, and they also have a very extensive Judaica collection. You can see a couple more photos here with Avi Lubin, the chief curator of the Mishkan, and you can see how the natural light is coming in, and you can see here the works by Boaz Noy. Here the works by Boaz Noy, the painter that Avi was talking with us about, and also a few works that were in the new exhibition that wasn't open yet. Here again, the works by Boaz Noy. Again, this is a taster because Avi Lubin is going to come to talk with us about the Mishkan, its history, and the new exhibition he curated, the Art, Labor, and Action. So that's the visit over there, and we'll have a chance to hear from Avi Lubin himself. Also in the Mishkan was a very small exhibition by artist Dov Hillel, who was originally from a kibbutz near the border in Gaza. And Avi has been curating in kind of a project room in the museum, rotating artists that were affected by the war. And I'm going to have Dalia tell you a few words about this image that she chose.
The reason that I picked this image is because I was very moved by this very simple piece of artwork. And when I found out that this was done, I think in the 80s it was done a very long time ago, and yet it was so relevant to what's going on today. Unfortunately, they're doing more than throwing rocks. But that's a whole host of reasons for that. But I just felt like a lot of what we saw, in particular with the Arab-Israeli artists, was an attempt to find the commonalities between our two peoples and to create peace on a tiny piece of land that we share. And that this cycle, this until both of us realize that we both peoples have rights to the land and respect the other people, we're going to keep doing this. On Friday, in his reserve duty, he was in Gaza. They threw rocks at him. And today he realizes he wants peace more than ever. And that's exactly how I feel. And I thought that this encapsulated it. And it was, again, the simplicity of it was so powerful.
So you can see here, I put the date. This is a work by Dov Hillel from 1968. For those of you who know conceptual art, this is definitely within in line with what was going on in the world at that time, but really almost shocking to see this sentence written so many years ago and resonating so powerfully today.
The reason that I picked this image.
One moment, that's not what I meant to do. Okay, you can see we were in Haifa. We traveled, this was the kibbutz and Charod we traveled to, and on that day we then traveled to El-Fahim, to the art gallery. El-Fahim is an Arab town or Arab small city. You can see over here. And we visited the art gallery in El-Fahim, which actually a few weeks after our trip, the gallery was finally recognized by the state and given the funding to become the first Arab art museum in the country. This gallery has been was founded by Said Abu Shakra and is extremely central as the one place that kind of fosters contemporary art by Palestinian Israeli Arabs. I'm saying Palestinian Israeli Arabs because people define themselves and identify themselves in different ways. Here you can see us at the top floor of the gallery with the town of El-Fahim in the windows. Speaking here with Rina Tzemach, who is one of the lead ceramicists that is leading the Al Sabal Women's Initiative. And before we see another part of what we saw in the gallery, I'll let Beverly say a few words.
I can't not talk about the experience of being with Israelis on the street, in the art community, plus my own family. And seeing how they were so impacted emotionally, still, for totally understandable reasons. And the interesting thing for me was each person seemed to act out their horrible feeling in different ways. The thing that stuck for me overall is the positive role of women in reaching out to work with other women, in the art area and beyond. Reaching out to work with other women of different ethnicities, religions, religiosities, ages, countries, in strife, etc. And that can be translated to positive changes in society.
So
I can't not.
So, and one of the women that we met there and the exhibitions that we saw that Beverly also kind of mentioned and brought to the forefront was the work by Sophie Abu Shakra. Sophie Abu Shakra, first of all, the Abu Shakra family is it's a lineage in the Israeli Arab Palestinian society. Said Abu Shakra, her uncle, is the founder of this gallery, and the family goes all the way back to Assam Abu Shakra, was one of the major painters, also considered, I'd say, one of the major painters in Israeli art historical kind of narrative. And in this one, Sophie Abu Shakra, she comes from architecture and design and made a very interesting transition into art. And what you're seeing here are these works by her that are a combination, and looking at a combination between tradition and contemporary digital AI world, where what she did, she took traditional Palestinian embroidery shapes and coded them into a CNC machine to then create these designs within olive tree trunks. Okay, so both the material, the olive tree, is very quintessential to the Palestinian history and tradition, as well as the embroidery shapes. Those she combined to create these shapes. And then what we're seeing, the kind of turquoises in between, is resin to complete these shapes. She spoke quite a lot about receiving the story of and the history and narrative of her family from her grandmother. And again, it ties into what Beverly mentioned about the women kind of tying the things together. And it was fascinating to listen to her and how she told the story, and also her own dilemmas and difficulties within the current situation. You can see here in the name of the exhibition also, I don't know, for those of you who know, the absentee law is the law where in 48, if Palestinians fled their homes, the homes were confiscated by the government and then given to Jewish families. So the absentee law is a very loaded term within Israeli and Palestinian history. And you can see here how she's playing with this and the code, whether it's the AI digital world code or what are the algorithms that are moving us and how. Okay, I'm not going to go into a lot of words about this beautiful home where we ended that day, also in the area with a house on the Wadi with a couple that are really looking to create coexistence. And we had a conversation there. You can see how beautiful the house is. And this is our last evening in Haifa, where we had Gila take us on a fascinating graffiti tour in the city, with a lot also dealing with the war. And for dinner, we also met, some of you might recognize Evgenia Kempinski, who is a beloved CSP teacher. So she joined us for that dinner. On our way down, because the next day we made our way down to Tel Aviv, we stopped in Ein Hod for a tour there. It's a small artist village. We had a printmaking workshop to kind of sum our experience up north. And then we came to Vitkin Winery, where we toured the winery and had lunch there. And I'm going to let Noah say his words, because he said them so beautifully.
Pretty self-explanatory. This was amazing at the winery. And it was a break in the middle of a very ADHD day of travel. And it was a welcome respite, but it was also, getting to that winery, years ago, Israel didn't have anything like this. And the growth and the of the country, it was just remarkable. And I love the cork table. And just, this was also at a point in the journey where I think all of us, at least it felt to me, we had all kind of gelled, because we're all getting to know one another. And this was just very comfortable and special.
Yeah, there was a lot of food. I skipped most of the food photos, I think.
1,000 good photo.
Okay. There might be a few more food photos, but yeah, we'll move on to Ari, talking about, you might recognize here from the back, Sophia, who is also a CSP teacher and a curator at Tel Aviv Museum of Art. So she met us over here and talked with us a little bit about the museum, and then we continued for a tour with me. I'm going to let Ari say a few words over here.
From this trip. The reason I chose it was it shows Shirel teaching, and since Shirel is the curator of this trip, I wanted to include her in the photo. And I like this image with Herzl, since I'm working on the project you're all going to see about Zionism in a chart. But you can see our group reflected in the image behind as well. And what this image conveys is that what's special about CSP is we go to places that other people may go, like this exhibit in the Tel Aviv Art Museum. But most people walk in, have no idea what they're seeing, and they don't understand the context or the behind the scenes stories. And we get the opportunity to go with someone like Shirel, who could take each of these rooms, make them meaningful and enjoyable and deep and impactful. And then when we leave, we have something way more than just walking through an exhibit at an art museum in Tel Aviv. So Again, that's why I chose the image, and I find this image of Herzl so reflective, and it's like so appropriate for today, and what Herzl would look like if he read the headlines in the world and in Israel. So it's a layered image that kind of reflects all of what I just outlined. It's something special about a CSP trip that we.
I agree with
Noah then agreed with Ari and continued about that. I will mention that one of the unique things about this sculpture is not only, like Ari mentioned, we usually see Herzl kind of looking up, looking out as a visionary, and here he looks either tired or despaired or completely asleep. But also this is the first sculpture you walk in and see in the Israeli art permanent exhibition, and the sculpture is by a Jewish Scottish artist Bruno Schutz, and was taken by the curator actually from the regular collection, not the Israeli art collection, because this sculptor was never in Israel and he's not Israeli, he's Jewish Scottish. So the choice of the curator to have a Jewish Scottish artist in the Israeli permanent collection was also a very big shift in terms of who's in or who belongs to Israeli permanent collection. We had quite a conversation about that before, so continuing to the rest of the exhibition. I did want to show you, I mean, we had sometime at the square, the hostage square is basically the piazza at the entrance of the Tel Aviv Museum. So we had some time there to see what was going on, for people to connect with the families that were there. So those are a few images from there, and a few more images of food because I couldn't leave them out. Everything was very tasty. This is the Design Museum in Holon, where the exhibition that we explored was one that looked at gender and gender equality and inequality, and followed by later on in the day, we met Sibyl Golfinger, who is actually the founder of Comme Il Faut, who is one of the first and major fashion houses in Tel Aviv that was founded in 1987. We got to hear from her, including seeing this fabric she explained about that is all influenced by the war, and you can see some of her philosophy over here. So we had a chance to meet her, and then we went on a very unique tour of Jaffa with members of a hip hop group called System Ali, and they took us through Jaffa with their own personal stories and stories of a mixed city. And I want to share with you, first of all, we didn't meet Netta. We had Samira with us. Netta was still touring in the US when we were there, but we will have a CSP program also in November with Netta and Samira. And I did want to share with you this very special moment at the end of the tour. Samira Saraya is Israeli-Palestinian, working for the last 15 years alongside Netta Weinel, who is Jewish Israeli, and a whole group of people. And here at the end of the tour, we asked her some more of her personal questions, and she talked about the difficulty in having post-October 7th, having very close friends who didn't want to even hear Arabic or talk with her, and how she sang a lullaby, recorded a lullaby for one of her friends, and we asked her if she can sing us that lullaby. We don't have a video of that because she actually requested us not to film a video, but this is her sitting down here and singing us this unique lullaby. And I did want to play you just like a minute or so from so that you know who Netta and Samira are. They're like major Israeli artists at this point, as I mentioned, touring the US. They're currently teaching in Berlin, and we'll just hear a minute or so from this clip. What they're singing is a song by Nomi Shemer, and this was recorded just a few months ago.
מה שלומך את הבוקר? מה שלומך החור? מזג האוויר הזה מזכיר לי נשכחות. טוב שהחלון פתוח, יש לשמור על קור הרוח ועל הכוחות.
אין הרבה סיבות לשמוח, בא יותר לבכות. אין ממש לאן לברוח, יש עוד לחכות. יד נעלמה ובסת, גם את פירות יחס, גם את המהות.
בשעה שקשה לי לשיר, והכל מתמוטט על ראשי, את תרשי לי לזכור ולהזכיר תמיד. לי יש אותך, לך יש אותי, לנו יש אותנו.
So, I mean, you can see how powerful this is. And actually, a couple months after October 7th, the two of them went on a kind of emergency tour in the US, and they performed in many, many campuses together. This is a long-lasting, artistic, very unique friendship. And we're going to host them on CSP to hear about their journey and hear some of their songs. I don't know if you realized, but most of the last 10 minutes I was showing you was all in one day. It was quite a crazy day, which we ended in the home of Rachel Korazim. For those of you who studied with her, another CSP beloved teacher, we had the beautiful opportunity to sit in her living room and study together with her. And then we're in a new day now. This is, we transitioned to a new day. Our own Gila Levitan taking us through possibly one of the craziest buildings in Tel Aviv. You can see two shots here from the outside. And we have some group members who were able to describe this so beautifully that I'm going to let first Joyce and then Jeff say some words.
Originally expressed distaste for the bus terminal. I said, why are they taking us here? I thought to myself, when I first smelled the urine, I said, this is not what I was expecting. And then I realized why. It was an architectural mistake of great proportions. However, it turned out to be a hidden gem. It turned out that this architectural mistake provided support to communities who were marginalized and would not have had a place to go other than for this bus station. And I just thought it was an interesting juxtaposition that this disaster provided a respite for these poor marginalized communities. And the fact that this Yiddish book station, so to speak, had a place to go and was this marvelous hidden gem. It was like a gnome coming out from under a rock. I thought, I just was tremendously moved by it. And I think of all the things that we saw, it showed me that, there was still hope for this world.
So in a moment, we'll understand exactly what Joyce was saying about what is that thing that is like a gnome coming from under a rock. This is the view from the top of the central bus station. I'll just note that my home is behind these buildings over here. So we were also on the top, on the roof. But this is the Yiddish library, which Joyce mentioned, and Jeff will introduce to us, and then I'll say a few more words about.
We actually wandered through the area of Barcelona that he wrote about in his trilogy, Shadows of the Wind, and the subsequent books. In those stories, he has a magical library, and it's there, but it's not. It transcends time. And here we are in this decrepit, bizarre, architecturally significant building that is the Tel Aviv bus terminal, and hidden in it is a magical library. So this was really very special. The bus terminal was special. I loved the architecture on the trip. This was our visit to a hidden library, which is a special thing. So here we are, we're getting to experience a hidden library, and I thought that was really quite special.
So this library, you can see here, Mendy, who is the person who is kind of responsible for this library. You can see the books and how they're stacked. We have the opportunity to hear from Mendy about this place, for him to actually sing us a song or two. And you're seeing the photo here is actually a staged photo where Ari kind of asked us to scatter around the room and with the books and kind of really recreate an imaginary scene over there. I must say that we do have Gila coming back for more programs of Off the Beaten Track, but we might have to have her do one maybe about the central bus station. We'll see if we can do that. On Saturday, we had a crazy beautiful lunch. You can see Jewish compulsory brunch. It was a brunch with Jewish food from around the world. We also had the opportunity, Avichai came. Avichai is the founder and director of Via Sabra, who we did this trip with. He's been serving in Gaza since October 7th, and he got like half a day off, and he divided his time between coming to visit us and talking with us about his experience, and then going to his back to his wife and kids. We have now transitioned to Jerusalem. I'm just looking at the time, we're doing well. And we visited the completely brand new campus of the major art schools in Jerusalem. Bezalel moved, the art school of Bezalel moved from Mount Scopes into the center of town and just opened. And here's another complex of campuses that moved into the center of town. The major one of them is the Sam Spiegel School. And here you can see the sign for the acting school by Nissan Nativ. And here you can see the sign for the Chazuti School. It's the visual theater school. So it's a huge impact on Jerusalem daily life. We toured the school and met with some people there. This school, basically almost any, I'll just throw some names, but if any of you saw Shtisel, the writer of that comes from this school, and almost every major Israeli film you see and hear of are students that went through the school. And here we met with Yair Agmon, who is also a graduate of the school and the creator, director, and leader of this internet series, The Hitchhikers, and he's now, I mean, these are just two screenshots from season 5. He's now, we will not see him in November in CSP because he's filming during that month. He'll come to us probably in December, hopefully even talking about the new season. In his series, he basically goes around the country, picking up hitchhikers, and has conversations with these people of all the walks of life in Israel: religious, secular, male, female, ultra-Orthodox, Arab, Druze, I mean, anything, you name it. I think season number 4 was a season that was dedicated to youth, and I think season number 3 was dedicated to women. So some of them are mixed and some of them are dedicated. You can see him here, and we're gonna also have him come and speak about his quite unique life story, and mainly about this internet series and kind of his takes on Israeli society. I'm gonna do this really quickly because we went to a crazy rooftop in Jerusalem in Binyan Klal, and this is kind of a whole ecosystem on the rooftop. And then we visited Hamifal Gallery, another beautiful, beautiful, unique space in Jerusalem, and I'm gonna let Ed describe it.
Why Hamifal? Well, it resonated with me for a bunch of reasons. First of all, just from an environmental, ecological, that the building has been repurposed. It was in apparently very poor condition. And even the furniture that's in this picture is a lot of that is repurposed stuff. So that really resonated with me on a lot of levels. It also felt extremely comfortable. And a lot of what, some of the themes, somewhat woven in this home, the hostages, bring them home now. We all want peace. Our homes were violated on 10/7. So the idea that this was a peaceful, a restful place and felt like home, I thought was really a nice thing to share my comments on that. I also like that the artwork on this floor, the ground floor, was very collaborative, and it wasn't necessarily artists that were selected to do it, but people could just kind of participate. And I found that very, very comforting and very warm. And it's also a very comfortable place to simply just come and unwind, maybe have a sweet or a coffee. And it really just, everybody can come here and just enjoy and be very much at peace and at home. So that was my reason for choosing this.
So Hamif'al is, it's actually a huge space and gallery where we saw an exhibition on all the floors. And I think Ed mentioned it very beautifully. The art on the first floor it's not only collaborative, it's open to anyone who wants to come and create. They have on Tuesdays kind of a slot of time where the curators are there and the workshops are open, and any artist that wants to come and do stuff does stuff, and that's how the art just accumulates there. We're almost at the end with, hopefully I'll leave some time for questions. Here we visited, on our last visit, we visited a place called Bet Hansen, or the Hansen House. It's the former leper hospital turned into a major cultural and contemporary art center that also hosts the Jerusalem Design Week every year. You can see in the photo here, if you're wondering, yes, these are halot. These are this is a whole wall of bread that Noah is standing at there. And here, we had our ending workshop with vocal artist Victoria Hanna. It was an hour and a half of like diving into Kabbalah from a completely different perspective. And I'll say a few words about that. But before I do, I think it's easiest to see one of her clips and understand what she does.
22 אותיות יסוד חקוקות בקול, חצובות ברוח, קבועות בפה, ב5 מקומות בגרון, בחך בלשון, בשיניים, בשפתיים, 22 אותיות שקשר בלשונו, וגילה את סודו. שבעה בשלם עשר מזלות, 22 אותיות, שכאן חצר שקלה, לנראה צפת. مش كليتو لا عطينا تو ושתיים אותיות יסוד, שבע כפולה, שינשורקת אלף, מופיעה בין.
So she's probably the most avant-garde artist in Israel right now. She also performs internationally, and she has a tour coming up September across the United States. The roots of what she's doing, which you might have gathered from the video, is all in the mystical writings, mainly Sefer HaYetzirah. Those of you who are studying with Professor Matt might know more or understand even more about what you saw. A fascinating woman. She grew up in Mea Shearim, ultra-Orthodox in Jerusalem. She is still Orthodox, and kind of merging this contemporary and pop culture and music and vocals, also leaning into a very unique personal story, because as a child she used to stutter. So a very unique personal story there. And also actually I think it's just last year was 150 years for Bialik, Chaim Nachman Bialik, and she was the lead artist to create new tunes to his lyrics and clips for his songs. I'll send you some of them in the follow-up email because they're pretty crazy. And she is another artist who we're gonna have for CSP online on, this one is coming close, so I actually remember the date, on November 5th, to tell her story, to share some of her work, and to perform for us online. So we ended our trip with this workshop, even with, she helped us understand, Jewishly, mystically understand our names through learning the letters of our names, in a very interesting experience. I'm gonna let Donna say a few words about these images in a way that I think also kind of captures some of the spirit of the trip, this one, and I think in many ways CSP trips in general.
Joyce picked it because she thought I was such a great roommate. And really the reason to come was for me also going out of my comfort zone. So this is a very strange picture. It's not a beautiful picture, but I picked this photo because it was very emblematic for me. We're in central Jerusalem and we're walking along the promenade, and way in the background you see those lovely pastel umbrellas of hope for the future that all of us hold dear. So that was, you know, the goal of the trip, I think, to see that Israel has hope for itself. And then my super roomie, Joyce, on the left, is hand in hand with Tamar. You may remember, everybody was Tamar's best friend for hand holding and walking at some point on one day up and down some street somewhere on the trip. Me too. But I thought them doing this at this time was a great combination of themes, because to me, the scene itself wrapped up this full-hearted ruach that I felt, that we all felt during the whole trip, developing day by day by day.
So I think also Tamal was one of the participants who's actually Israeli, lives in Israel, and did the trip with us, and very bravely, after fall and breaking her hand, still doing the whole trip. So, and giving us all the beautiful moments. And I want to end with Gila. This is a last group photo in that in Hansen House, and I think what Gila is saying, yeah, I'll let her say it and then I'll echo that.
I just want to thank everybody for being able to have the opportunity to be a tour guide again, and to be able to educate people about my favorite topic, Israel. A part of the most the thing that you need in order for that to happen is a motivated audience that's willing to listen. And it's very rare to have an entire group that is always all ears, all perking, and also wanting to hear and willing to listen. So I really appreciated that. Thank you for coming and for listening.
I think what Gila said is true for this group and true for CSP in general. It's amazing to teach to a group that is so open to learning and eager to learn. You might have noticed not everyone who shared I was able to put in this presentation, but I hope you got kind of a good taste of our experiences, and hopefully this piqued your curiosity as to the new speakers that we're going to bring to CSP in the coming few months. And yay, I see Gila is here, direct from Tashkent.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Okay, just in the last few minutes. Yes, it was quite an adventure. It was touch and go because this was intended to be a small group, but as things got more stressful in the Middle East, our group got smaller and smaller. And we needed everybody who signed up to attend to make it happen. And the fact that we had last minute signups, made a difference. And we went for the program. I would say CSP invested some money to make it happen. That's why we're bringing some of the people that we've mentioned back to CSP. So we feel that was a good investment, not only for the people who went on the trip, but for everybody in the audience. You'll get the chance to meet some of these awesome speakers. I mean, you just saw like was it a 10-day trip? 10-day trip in like 50 minutes? Yeah. It was way busier than anything you just saw. You didn't get an idea of the amazing hotels we stayed at. You got a glimpse of the food, but the food was fantastic. It was very hot when we were there. So we were walking, we were learning. And a CSP event, this is just what you got today was an amazing opportunity to peek into what a CSP at Travel Adventure looks like. But I would say it's more than all that. So, but a great start. I will say Haifa was not my favorite place in all of Israel of all my 10 trips. However, this trip at least gave me a much greater appreciation because we were in a beautiful new hotel in a great location where we could walk. I'm not sure it's the first place I would go back to when I go visit Israel, but I certainly would recommend people go on the adventure. I have created some videos that I think we'll share, and you'll get to see kind of walking along with us on some of our adventures, and maybe we'll share that in the follow-up. And people have asked, can we share the names of the people that you mentioned and some links? And of course, we'll do that in a follow-up email. I will also mention that the System Ali piece, I'll create a video because what you shared didn't capture our experience of walking the streets of Jaffa with a hip hop group, singing out loud. They had a guitar, they had an amp, and they were singing as we walked through the old city, and people were just waving and cars were coming by. And yes, it's hard to capture experiences if you're not there, but that was quite a memorable experience. I guess my question to you is, what did the trip do for you, Shirel? Since you put it together, what did you achieve? What do you felt you learned from that?
First of all, I think for me it was Gila mentioned, thank you for allowing her to be a tour guide again. For me, it was a way to share the beauty and intensity of Israel and the sides that I think are amazing. It seems like very, very long ago right now. And I do remember coming off the trip, it was a trip, I realized how we were for those 9-10 days so enveloped in beauty and hope and people that are opening their hearts to us. So it did give me a lot of strength and hope. I must say that putting this kind of program together reminded me of that in days that sometimes it's very hard to remember. So a very special once in a lifetime experience. Absolutely.
Right. I guess I should repeat. Our CSP trips are bespoke trips. We don't repeat them. They're all unique. So this trip will never happen again. I mean, I know you've promised you will not do a trip again, which you will, and we'll probably do some other art adventure, but it'd be very different. I think I'm going to give Gila an opportunity to say something since she joined us all the way from Tashkent. Let's give her an opportunity. I have to unmute her though, so hold on. Let's see if I can find her. This is super guide Gila Levitan. Okay, go ahead, Gila.
Hi, everybody. I'm actually in Bukhara. I moved from Tashkent to Bukhara, but thank you for letting me join. And I just wanted to say what an amazing curation that Shirel did in bringing this all together. What looks like all different random things that we did actually had a story behind it of bringing things together. And she put a lot of thought into every single day. And I think something that emerged that we all learned from everything that she put together was that a lot of people talk about does art imitate life, or does life imitate art? And what we learned is that art is life, because we saw how it can be a reaction, it can be used in order to process things, and it can be also used in order to predict things, as we saw with Dahlia's response. And we just saw how integral art is into our lives. And I just wanted to thank CSP for the opportunity to guide again, as I said. And it was a very unique experience that I feel very privileged to have been a part of. So thank you very much to everybody who came, and to Shirel for all her work, and for Ari for pulling it all together.
You're very
Thank-
welcome.
Ari, one more thing. I kept one last video by Mary to kind of, because I think she tied it very beautifully with CSP in general, and it touches on what Gila said. So I'm just going to share that short 1-minute clip. Is that okay? Yes, you can't really
Sure.
sing, right?
I don't have a choice. Go ahead.
No, you don't have a choice.
Gila Fine talks about Talmud stories and talks about a concept from Roland Barthes about the death of the author, meaning that the meaning of text is not determined by the author's intention, but rather by the reader's interpretation. And really, when I got home from this trip, I understood that when you just look at art in a museum, you have no idea, well, you might have an idea of what the artist was thinking about. But in this trip, we got to meet so many artists and talk to them and understand their process and then how we were reacting to it. And so I'm very grateful for that.
Okay. So thank you. I mean, you should know there was hijinks on the trip since I was not in charge and ceded the power to Gila and to Shirel. I sat in the back of the bus with Lance and Noah, and we decided to make our own little slideshow of what art is. And so we took pictures of Shirel explaining art in the Tel Aviv Museum when we replaced the art on the wall. So if you email me and you want to see, I should make something. We just started putting up random things on the wall. So it looks like Shirel's very seriously talking about
Ari kids pictures.
Aaron Katz's 6-year-old picture from kindergarten, or there's a picture of an egg like sandwich, or random things we put on the wall, and we really laughed a lot. And not only did we learn, we laughed, we ate. Thank you all for joining us today, and hope you appreciated this view into a CSP adventure. Have a great day, and we'll send you lots of follow-up so you can learn more. And look, you'll see some of these artists coming up in the next few months. Thank you all. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Come on a CSP adventure. I think we're going to Germany, and then we're going to go, I think, to Greece after that. Who knows? Maybe Gila will take us to Bukhara. I don't know. Okay. Bye, everybody. I got to go work.